Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Relationship Atlas podcast. I'm your host, Coach Atlas, and this is a podcast brought to you to help you map out the difficult and sometimes challenging terrain of our intimate relationships. So today's episode is based on a book that has some incredible support lines in it, and it's called Conscious Loving. This book came my way many years ago. Gabby and I actually took it on to read it together, and it helped us a lot because the information is very simple, it is very concise, but the commitments that come from this book are things that you often think are already happening in your relationship, but you don't really quite have the clarity that you've committed to these things. Relationships are fascinating because I think once you say, hey, do you want to be in this with me? There's so many expectations that we then have of this person and of ourselves. And what we often miss in that process is actually committing to those things. And that might sound weird, but for me, what I've noticed, and this is something that I help my clients with now as well, is we go out of our way to commit to things, to put ourselves on the line and be fully held accountable to following through on those things. One of the loudest ones is infidelity. Everyone has their own idea of what infidelity really looks like. Now, there's some common themes and common ways that people break that line, but it's ironic that when we get into a relationship, we don't commit to staying in this relationship and not looking outside of it. We just say, I'm in this with you, and that's where it ends. What's interesting is what would happen if you both actually sat down and had a conversation and said, hey, listen, I just want you to know I'm very committed to this. And I'm also committed to not exploring anything outside of this. If I happen to feel like I need to, then I also commit to communicating that with you. Now, that's a high level take on a conversation that can be dumbed down to simply saying, I commit to this relationship, I commit to you, and I commit to not pursuing outside sources or outside relationships that could hinder this relationship. That is a different kind of commitment, but that's the base. The higher base would be if I feel as if that is necessary, I won't pursue it until we talk about it because there may be something I'm not seeing about where we're at. Now, where I'm going to lend this to is this first commitment that really stands out to me. And every single one of my clients goes through this because it is crucial, in my opinion, to the overall longevity, connection, and safety of a relationship. And the commitment goes like this. I commit to staying close. That's part one of this commitment. I commit to staying close. What I also commit is to clearing up all of the things that get in the way of me being close. Just let that land for a second. Part A, I commit to staying close. If we just break that down, that might already sound confusing because, well, I'm with you. So don't you think that I'm committed to staying close? Why do I need to say that to you out loud? Because when you do, it puts you on the line. It holds you accountable. And a huge component of relationships that is missing, that causes a tremendous amount of issues, is a lack of accountability. Now, it's hard to hold somebody accountable when they haven't told you that they want to be held accountable. So therefore, then it's an expectation. So then there's a lot of room for misinterpretation or different viewpoints to come in and say, I'm right, you're wrong, or this is just the way things go, or this shouldn't be happening. It creates more room for disconnection and a lack of clarity. So what we're doing here with this commitment is we're saying, I'm committed to clarity. And what that means is, if there's something that I want you to know about me, I will commit to it. I will hold myself and I will expect you to hold me accountable to this agreement. So I commit to staying close. What does that mean? Well, we think about closeness as maybe physical proximity, right? I'm sitting next to you, so I'm close to you. I'm committing to being in this room with you. That is part of my commitment to staying close. Closeness, though, is a very open-ended conversation. Closeness can look like a good conversation, listening intentionally. Closeness can look like physical intimacy. Closeness can look like a lot of different things. So how you show up in that way is actually, in a great way, very open-ended. You have options. It's not one way or the other. It is a plethora of examples on how you could stay close and what your commitment to staying close could look like. It could be a midday text, hey, thinking about you. It could be planning a weekly date night. It could be making sure you have your weekly planning meetings. It could be keeping them in the loop about your schedule for the day and how that's going to impact the rest of the day. Committing to staying close is very open-ended. So use that creatively as you wish, but just, again, reminding yourself that I'm committed to staying close. Now, in order to commit to staying close, we also have to acknowledge that life happens. We're busy. A lot of us are very career focused. We're worried about other things like money, kids, marriage. We're worried about friendships, family. We're worried about how we show up in the world, how we're viewed in the world. We're worried about being perceived as something great. We're worried about our success. We're worried about world events. So there's a lot of barriers that end up showing up throughout the course of a single day that get in the way of closeness. They ask us to distract. They ask us to lack presence. They challenge us to stay grounded in this room that we're in. They challenge us to think creatively. They challenge us in a lot of different ways. And so that takes us from this closeness. So the second part of the commitment is I commit to staying close, and I commit to clearing up the barriers that get in the way. Now, the barriers is also a plethora of examples that could possibly be in the way. I first want to talk about an example that isn't talked about enough, in my opinion, when it says, what do I do to stay close? A barrier to staying closeness can actually be a lack of self-care. When I am not full, when I am low energy, I am not well taken care of, my diet is all over the place, or my lifestyle choices for food, my water intake is crap, my sleep is crap, my friendships and my social life are crap, I drink all the time, I'm not really engaging with life in ways that fulfill me. That actually does create a barrier, or it is a barrier to your ability to stay close in the relationship. So a part of committing to clearing up the barriers that are getting in the way is clearing up the things like your personal routine, like your difficulty taking space to do the things that you know you need to do and that will help you show up better. That is part of the process. And that can look like a conversation. Hey, I'm committed to closeness here, but I am struggling to stay close because I'm missing my routine, I'm missing my gym, I'm missing my sleep, fill in the blank. So it asks you to start putting in routines for yourself, practices for yourself, schedules for yourself, so that you know this will help you stay close and show up better in the relationship. So that's an example of clearing up a barrier. Other barriers might be your desire to shut down in a conversation. If you can catch it, you are responsible for clearing that barrier up to stay close. When you shut down, when you completely pull out, when you walk away without communicating, you are not committing to staying close, you are committing to distance. So the invitation here is to commit to clearing up that barrier in helpful ways. For example, if you want to walk away from a conversation, a commitment to staying close would be, I'm struggling with this conversation. I notice that I want to shut down. I don't want to do that right now. I'm going to go take 5 minutes in the other room, but I'll be back. I want to have this conversation. That is you prioritizing staying close by doing what's necessary to clear up the barrier that is currently getting in the way. So you come home from work and you're stressed out from work. While you are on your way home from work, there is an opportunity for you to clear up that barrier, which is your stress from the workday or your tiredness from the workday, so that you can still show up when you get home. Work is an interesting one because of how much energy we give to it, and then we go home and we give less. When the job disappears, who do you want in your life? You'd probably want your partner. So it begs the question, what are we doing to also show up at the highest level possible in our relationship? Because that really is truly way more important. So if I'm going to give a ton of positive energy to my job all day long, then I should also go home and give the person that I love, more than I love the job, a lot of positive energy and loving energy. Take the skills that you show up with work, take them home with you. Don't forget them. Don't leave them at the office door. So clearing up a barrier on your way home would be, okay, what do I need in here? I need binaural beats maybe while I'm driving. Listen, that's a real thing. Throw on some binaural beats and reset your system. Maybe I need to sit out in the car for 5 minutes and meditate. Maybe I need to just slow down my breath. Maybe I need to sing at the top of my lungs and move energy. Something can be done in that moment to clear up the things that will get in the way of me being close to my partner. I hope that this has started to curate examples of how you show up in your day with your relationship and what micro ways, not microwaves, micro ways you are actually letting things get in the way of what you probably think is your commitment to being close. Now, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, well, we've never actually committed to this. Absolutely. Most of us haven't. This is why it's so crucial for us to start now. Start initiating commitments around the things that you believe are expectations that haven't been clearly held accountable to. Let me re-say that. Initiate commitments around the things that you believe are general or expected assumptions about how a relationship goes. Stir commitments around that so that you both can be held accountable to showing up in those ways. Once you are then held accountable because you've said it out loud, it makes the conversation later when life inevitably shows up and kicks you and you end up missing on certain things, it makes it easier to say, hey, how do you think I'm showing up in this commitment right now? Hey, we talked about this last week. You told me you were committed to it. I haven't experienced that, and I'm wondering, what is there something that you might need from me to support you in this process? How do we get on the same page? Do you feel like I'm showing up in this way, that I'm following through on my commitment? It holds us accountable, and when we're actually held accountable, we are more likely to show up in the ways that we've agreed to being accountable to. It's a funny little thing. Just like our work contract is our commitment to doing all of these things. Therefore, we show up every day and hold ourselves accountable to doing those things, so much so that we actually try to fight to not get feedback. And silence sometimes is better because it says, I'm doing what I have been told I'm accountable to. But then we go home and we get quote unquote bothered or poked at for not doing the things. It begs the question, well, what am I doing differently? Oh, I'm not committing. I'm not holding myself accountable, and I'm not following through on those accountabilities, and I'm not planning ahead like I do at work. Therefore, it is a very different environment. So, the commitment is I commit to staying close. The second part of the commitment, I commit to clearing up the things that get in the way of me being close. All the garbage, all the shit, all the poo-poo, all the caca, all the stuff that shows up on a daily basis. I commit to clearing those things up. Now again, life will come, challenges will happen, mind will run off with you, things will happen. That's the natural course of life. But this commitment just keeps us grounded and reminds us of what's really important, and again, continues to hold ourselves accountable. Accountability doesn't mean perfection. Accountability simply means I understand what I have committed to, and I understand that even though I committed to it, I missed it today, and I missed it this week, and I'm reinitiating my commitment and my accountability. Now, here's the very interesting part. In relationships, we tend to find these moments where should I leave, should I go, or should I stay? When somebody has committed something to you out loud and consistently misses over a long period of time, they're very clearly showing you what their priorities are. Now, this isn't to knock anybody down, but this is to say you now have a lot more tangible proof that this may not be for you, because without these commitments, you're working on assumptions and expectations of how you think relationships should go, not how you've both agreed this will go. And you're stuck thinking, well, am I overthinking it? Am I asking too much? Am I asking too little? Do they even like me? And all of these questions show up when those questions would be answered. And you would have that clarity a lot easier if we started things off a lot sooner with some pretty clear commitments and accountabilities. Now, I can hear myself as I describe this to you. I can hear myself sounding like a business. Now, if you've listened to this podcast up until this point, you know I'm a huge fan of seeing a relationship like a business. The reason is because structure creates safety. Safety creates freedom. So, shortened, structure creates freedom. When you have gaps in your structure in a business, the business struggles. The exact same thing happens in your relationship. When you are lacking the outer structure and the deepened foundation, which is still structure, you are struggling. Things are likely difficult. They are not going the ways that you want them to, and they're not feeling the way you want them to feel. Because that lack of structure is creating a lack of connection and a lack of freedom for you to explore what's possible in this relationship. So you're worried, you're concerned, you're unsafe, you're insecure, you're not trusting, you're questioning, you're a little bothered, you're maybe even exploring things outside of it. Even if it's just social media scrolling, you're exploring things outside of it because you haven't put yourself on the line here. So, like I said, it makes it easier down the line for us to get really clear on, no, they've committed for the last 6 months and they still haven't shown up. I mean, that's my proof. My proof is this doesn't matter to them in that way, and that's okay. All good. Well, maybe it isn't. It probably sucks, but it just gives us more clarity, creates more answers for us, and allows us to make decisions a lot easier. On the decision-making process, the commitment to staying close is a commitment you make, which also allows you to make decisions easier because you know what you're committed to. So you know this week, your decision-making process has to involve staying close. What does that look like? An example for me is I would always show up for my partner when she needed, but I wouldn't show up outside of that at a high level. Meaning, I'd be good with working 8 to 10 hours in the day. We'd call in the morning and call at night. And in my take, well, I'm calling you in the morning and I'm calling you at night. So this is my effort to show you that I am committed to closeness. The interesting part about that was that I was actually unknowingly heavily relying on her to initiate closeness. So that was a learning curve for me to figure out how I start to commit to closeness on my own, because this is my commitment and it's her commitment. So then what I started to do is actually take the time throughout the day to initiate pockets of closeness that were short, quick, easy, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Hey, how you doing? Hey, quick text thinking about you. Hey, I'm in between meetings and it's kind of slow. Like, what's up? How's your day? Like, these small check-ins were my way of showing that I'm committed to staying close. And the barrier was that I was worried about my career, which then it forced me to reorient my focus on what my actual commitments and priorities were in life. And it said, I actually love my partner much more than I love my job. Therefore, I better show up that way. To close, one more time, the commitment is I commit to staying close and I commit to clearing up the garbage that gets in the way of me being close. I hope there was some value in this. Again, the book that this stems from that I go a little ad hoc off of is called Conscious Loving. It's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. It has taught me a lot. I've integrated a lot into my own relationship, if not all of it, and I'm very grateful for that book. Specifically because they actually share at the beginning of the book, it took them 8 years to figure things out. And I remember reading that and feeling such relief because it took the pressure off of having to figure out immediately, because life is long. We're in it for the long haul. I committed to you for the long haul, which means it's going to take time. It's not as urgent as it feels. Beautiful. So these commitments that we make are going to be followed through over time. Okay, I'm getting close to my 20 minutes. My commitment every session here is 20 minutes. So we're going to close it here. Again, I hope there was value. If there was, please share this. Please like the episode. Please download the episode. Follow along on Spotify and Apple or wherever you happen to be. And if there's something in here that stood out, It means a lot to me to know that there was value here. So let me know. You can follow me on Instagram at @therelationshipcoach_, and we can interact there. If you want to take this work farther, you want to integrate these concepts and go deeper with them inside of your own unique relationship, please reach out. I have a couple spots left in my coaching for individuals and couples to take on. And so reach out to me at @therelationshipcoach_, or just email me atlas.matsuda@gmail.com. I got to run. I got 5 seconds. Thank you so much for being here. You're the best. I'll see you in the next episode.